Thank you. Diolch. Bron da pawb, a croeso cynnes i chi gyd, a warm welcome to everybody this afternoon's meeting of the Strategic Change, Transformation and Culture Committee. Can we start on item 1 with apologies for absence? Yeah.
Chief Fire Officer Buckingham, Matt Jones, Steve Davis, Steve O'Connell, Lisa Sproul, Christian Landig, John and Will.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Are there any additional apologies that we need to note today? No, I don't see anything. Okay, item number 2, there are declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest that anybody would need to make? I have one. There is a paper included in the pack that makes reference to the use of facilities of Cardiff and Vale University Health Board. I will become the chair of Cardiff and Vale University Health Board on October the 1st, and I don't think it precludes me from taking part in the discussion, but I just wanted to make sure that that's clear and that is on the record. Any other further declarations? No, we'll go to item 3 then, chairperson's announcements. I don't have any. So we'll go to item number 4, and that is to receive the minutes of the meeting that took place on the 16th of May. If we could turn to them, so first of all, matters of accuracy on page 3 of the pack, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Are there any issues of accuracy? I don't see any hands going up, but are we content to accept these minutes as a true reflection of the discussions that took place that day? Mm-hmm. Yes, everybody agreed? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, then the minutes are agreed, and we will turn to item 5, which is update on outstanding actions, which is on page 11 of the the second one, 5.1 2102, Neil Davis to present to the Commissioners the findings from the unconstrained analysis. That is completed. That took place and that happened, so that can be signed off as completed because that is done. And then 5 over the page on 5.4 2102, is anybody able to give an update? So, as you'll see there, Matt Jones confirmed this is now the Chief Fire Officer and it needs to be discussed with the unions on the 23rd of May. Is there an update that anybody can provide on that?
No, Chair. I think Matt shared the paper with Commissioners. We've got through that.
Yeah.
I'll need to double check with the union whether you can share with them or not.
Okay.
I'm not confident we can answer on that one. We'll need to check.
Okay. Right. So we don't know whether then that happened on the 23rd of May.
I'll confirm it during this if you like an update. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure, we can take it at the end. So just if we can sort out what is happening with that particular action. So the paper has been shared with us. Mm-hmm. But yeah, okay, so Dean, so let me leave that with you. Any other issues on the action log that anybody wants to raise? No, no thought. Okay, number 6 then, and this is progress on the delivery of the Independent Cultural Review Report recommendations, and that's Don.
Chair. So the report includes our update on where we are on the cultural review recommendations. We've previously reviewed the approach and we're taking a more rigorous approach to collecting data and evidence for these recommendations. We are also quality assuring them with the Commissioners on a monthly basis so they can dip test and sample the evidence towards those areas. The numbers in the paper state that we've completed 15 recommendations. That means that they have had the full sign off and evidence provided for them. We have 25 awaiting sign off, which means we've collected the evidence. They're just waiting for the relevant owner to sign those off. We are waiting evidence for 25 and we have 13 in progress, with 4 being annual improvement recommendations. However, this is moving at pace. We had our culture board this morning where we reviewed our recommendation and that has shifted significantly to 21 complete, 15 awaiting sign off, 33 are now waiting evidence, which leaves 9 in progress. We covered the 9 that are in progress with ELT this morning, and we believe that many of those will be complete as well. They include things such as position statements on our temporary promotions position, on our transfer policy, and some additional work in ELT development that we've progressed. Well, there's also some consideration to the abolishment of P12 to bottom out. We're fairly confident on our promotions process in that we have met the recommendations of considering and reviewing those. We wanted to do a bit more of a piece of work to share with staff prior to communicating that they are signed off. So the numbers in the paper have been superseded slightly. We have a meeting tomorrow with commissioners to quality assure those. We've also batched them in key themes, and we're starting the communication for our internal and external partners on those. They'll be starting with our communication and engagement recommendations and the additional work that we've done in that space, followed by values and behaviours and the additional work we've done there, leadership, and then on to promotions and a number of different areas. To sign these off by the timeline, which is the end of September, and the caveats are, of course, the 4 that will be on annual review and some of those that we want to do additional work on to make sure that we are clear that we've met the full scope of those and gone above and beyond those areas. So the report is for the commissioners to know our current position and progress on the recommendations.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Dom, for the paper and the introductory comments. Any questions? Tom?
Just a couple, and I'm fortunate I had the paper, slightly more updated paper this morning than you have had, Chair. So tomorrow, just confirm, obviously it's because myself and the Chair aren't there, is it the 21 recommendations that are going to the 2 commissioners?
So what we've sent through, we'll have by the end of the day, is the first 3 batches. So communication and engagement, values and ethics and leadership. So those recommendations will be the first 3 batches that we communicate out to staff, but we'll also open the system and enable you to look through the additional ones that you want. And then our view is that we will send you through the next batches.
Second one then is we'll have the 4 that are year on year. We'll have probably 7 or 8, which Nick will go. There's going to be other bits that need to be picked up or hoovered up that are just not that we've met the aspirations and recommendations, but not the ethos going forward. How are we going to capture that bit, if that makes sense, Tom?
Yeah, it absolutely does. So we considered that right from the start. So many of these are factored into the bigger transformation, or all of these are factored into the bigger transformation programme. So there are bigger pieces of work that sit with many of those recommendations. So once we have completed the recommendations, we'll communicate to staff that we have done them, what we've done to meet them, what additional work we've done towards those key areas, and what we are going to do next. And then we will continue to move those programs of work forward through the same improvement board. So a good example of that would be communication and engagement. So we've met the recommendations. They were quite simple, if I'm honest. We've gone above and beyond that. That program of work will take us through to March next year, and then we'll do a summary report as to the communication and engagement program, showing that we've met the bigger pieces that we wanted to achieve and embed them in the service, and that'll happen for the other 9 programs or the other 8.
Any other questions? Dominic, so turning to section 4.15, consultation with representative bodies, and it says that there will be an opportunity for representative bodies to input on progress and the dissemination of the outcomes. So can you outline how that input has happened with the representative bodies? Because what's really important is that we can sit down at a table and say, yes, we've implemented it, but the staff might feel differently about that. They might have a view about whether it's been implemented or not. So if you could outline how we're doing that, and it would be really great to hear from comms then about the dissemination of that information, about what's the approach and how that's going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. So many of the big ticket pieces of work that we've done, such as our promotions review, the agile working policy, they've all gone through trade union mechanisms, and they'll continue to do that. Our view is that we are looking at the Culture and Connect board that will have trade union and staff group impacts on, and we will take these to that board to discuss through where we think we are, what we think we've achieved, and what we need to do above and beyond those key areas. So that is something that we'll factor in as we move forward.
More on the comms side, Faye?
Yeah, so met with Anne-Marie last week to discuss how best to disseminate the information service-wide. And instead of focusing on individual recommendations, they want to group the updates under broad themes. So the plan is, like Dominic mentioned, first one will go out next week, communication and engagement. And we're hoping to be able to send weekly updates on each different topic. And then there's a request for sort of a graphic roadmap as well to show progress in terms of where we started, where we are on the journey, and then sort of working towards a finish line. So the plan is to broadly group them and release regular communication updates internally and externally as well.
And do other people have a view on whether then that will achieve the goal, or even after all of Laura and the comms team's efforts, would we be in a position where somebody would feel that they had no idea how many of the recommendations had been achieved, or would say, well, gosh, what has happened as a result of the culture programme?
There was a comment from Wayne earlier, which I do take on board, the fact that nowhere do we list all of the 83 recommendations and which ones we've sort of ticked off, and which ones are still outstanding. I do think that was a really good point. I think that we could probably just put something on the internet as a very plain graphic that just shows that, and then maybe just tick them off as we go.
So that will be included in the groups. So the groups are they're already grouped in the report. So the groups will cover each one. Honest engagement will group 1 to 5 plus another additional recommendation. So they should be picked up through that comms. And when you get the end, you'll have all of them.
Great. And then in terms of obviously what's I find really interesting is to not only have we got the headline and it says it's like everything that sits beneath that, and there is quite considerable, pieces of information. I mean, some of it is just, there's whole libraries practically sitting behind some of these recommendations. Who has access to that wider picture? Who gets to see that?
To pull out the information from it. So current commissioners have access, ELT have access for that. It's not a wide. We haven't got access for everyone because we need to control some of the evidence.
Yes, of course.
And we've had to be quite, so some of those evidence have passwords on them so that very few people see them. And we've had to tailor some of the evidence because it's very heavy lead on people. As well into that piece.
Sure. So there are very legitimate reasons why some of that information would not be widely available.
Yes.
But the summary of those will be available in the communications.
Yeah, great. No, that's great. Yeah, that's really helpful. And then, sorry to labour the point, 4.1.6, impact assessment. Quality impact assessment will reflect this process when agreed. When is that going to be agreed?
So I'll need to check the progress on the quality impact assessment. We've done specific quality impact assessments for each of the key areas. So, for example, our staff survey has a quality impact assessment that is done and agreed before we've done the work. So this is the other key work streams. So I don't think that there is an overarching quality impact assessment. There are specific quality impact assessments for the areas that we've progressed.
Okay, so do we need, do we need an overall quality impact assessment, or I'm just, what I've written down here is, what does this mean? I'm not quite sure if I know what it means, that statement. So that's 4.1.6. I'm not quite sure what we're trying to communicate in that.
Yeah, Chair. So I think we probably want Matthew's view on this, but I think there's probably a view. I would suggest there's an overarching view of the transformation programme and being mindful of impact on specific individuals from diverse backgrounds. And then for each, as Dominic says, for each piece of work, there will be an EQIA. If there's a policy change or a terms and conditions change, then there should be an EQIA within that work stream, I would suggest. But we can check with Matthew that we've got that set.
Okay. So it would be really useful to get some clarification on what we're doing here and why we're doing it and what we hope to achieve as a result of doing it. Brilliant. Sorry, is there any other further questions? Carl, you look quizzical.
No, I think the point's really well made, isn't it? we're going to do an equality impact assessment, trying to do it over 82 recommendations is one thing. Trying to do it over the change programme more broadly and understand the impact of change programme, I can absolutely see, but just to do it for the 82 recommendations, I'm not sure you'd want to. You might do it for individual recommendations because they have individual impact, but it might be that wording is around the change programme, the impact of the change programme in its broadest context, rather than just the 82 recommendations.
So I think we can just perhaps reflect on what it is we're trying to, what it is we're trying to do there and why we're trying to do it and how will we know.
Then we can agree on it.
Yeah, but so that would be really good.
That's a bit, hasn't we now?
Yeah, that's something to look at, I think. Any further questions to Dominic on this paper? Okay. So we are, I guess as a committee, we're asked to take assurance that the process is on track and is robust. Yeah. Great. Okay. Cool. We'll move on then to paper number 7, which is automatic fire alarms and the update from Mike.
Thank you, Chair. Again, it's for note in this report as an update on progress. If you look, going back, first brought this proposal in April 2024, went live January the 6th, 2025. More recently are the hospitals which came on board in April of this year. So what we're doing, the purpose of these reports is updating you on our progress and particularly our percentage reduction in AFAs. What we've got to bear in mind is the exemption process, which we have run alongside, which is allowing all the premises out there who feel that they should still maintain an emergency response. They've got that opportunity to request it, and it then gets assessed by a team within the service to determine whether or not an exemption should be granted or not. So we're looking at key infrastructure. There's examples, I think, in the appendices, which shows the type of buildings that we are maintaining our response to, and it may be hospitals, certain hospitals, if they fall within certain criteria, if they are critical to the communities, such as there'll be blood centres, there will be cancer charities, etc. So that they're the type of buildings which we maintain response. But the evaluation and where we currently are, I know it shows in the section 4, it's actually changed from there. It was 42%. On a meeting this week, it's actually 47% now. So we are improving our statistics month on month at the moment. The reason why it continues to be part of this meeting, historically, you expect a spike. So it just shows that we're anticipating the number of calls we're coming in, our challenges are appropriate, and we're maintaining and improving upon our figures month on month. That really concludes it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Right, thanks, Mike. Any questions to Mike on the paper?
I had a question and a comment. Firstly, really, really good progress. You know, certainly the fire branch said, didn't we? You know, we maintain the levels. The fact that we are, don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
Really, really positive. And we will obviously feedback fire branch that we are still achieving that one. And the exemption process, absolutely the right thing. What's the thoughts on reviewing those exemptions at
12 months.
12 months.
Yeah.
And would we expect to see that they have made steps to being able to drop off that exemption list at 12 months?
Some premises will, but some won't. Some are just key to the community. So you just want to maintain operational cover, but also looking at the number of calls that we are going to these premises as well. So if you're getting a high number of calls, obviously we got to reduce those number of calls. And it may be that the infrastructure improves so we can drop them off. So there's a lot of variables which determine whether or not they should stay on that list or not. Some will just maintain that list.
Of course, a hospital could go through extensive work program.
Some of them have.
And so they can come back to us and say, we would like an exemption for the next few months because we're going to be doing all this work on sites. Or vice versa, we would like you to start attending because it's going to be high risk activities. I think we're remaining a bit of agility there to flex up, flex down as necessary. But I concur with what you said. It's so far, we've not only hit the targets, we're exceeding the target in terms of reduction.
Dean?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Which is an observation from you, I guess, on behalf of operational response. I think when Mike is presenting the data to us in terms of the drop off in AFA responses, is the benefits is reaped, not just for firefighters, but it benefits other thematic reviews that we're doing. Or taking through some of that data in terms of the time that we're saving from our operational response element, how we are now reinvesting that, particularly into the training and the public safety element, where we're having more time now to go out and deal with other elements of education and prevention activities. So it's from an operational perspective, we are reaping the benefits of something that's been implemented, and those changes have been quite significant for us.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Thanks, Brian. I guess for me, the question is, what, if anything, do we do next? Is there anything else we need to do? Is there anything that we need to amend in our approach, or are we? Nothing jumps out to me. So I'm just like asking the question: what do we do anything next with this, or is this it?
In my opinion, it is just maintain focus. We maintain a focus on what we're doing, just to be able to react quickly. What we don't want to do is take an eye off the ball and all of a sudden the figures start to increase.
Yeah.
I think if we're there monitoring the figures, we're able to react accordingly.
Brilliant.
Sorry, Chair, I think just to build on that a little bit, I think my expectation, you would have seen a rise now in people asking for the exemptions. But I don't think we're evidence of that, like we?
No.
Maybe in time, we may see that increase. I don't know as people become more aware of that process and the availability of an exemption. I don't know.
But we are, we get a request in which we are saying no to, but there's evidence behind and a full rationale is given to the premises who do apply.
I think if I may, Joe, just to finish to say what we're doing next, I think this is really good evidence of getting the next bit right. Or because, and people in the room will know this, in the past when we've done a bit of work like this, we got the tick in the box and we moved on. Well, no, just the fact we're still discussing it in these functions and the highest level of governance shows that we're maintaining focus on it. So it's really important that we keep that going, and this is enduring. The reviews and evaluations will come to an end after 12 months, and it's BAU. But it should always come through the highest level of governance and scrutiny in terms of maintaining that focus. So I think what we do next is exactly what we're doing now.
Cool. Great. Any other further questions on AFAs? No, thank you very much, Mike. We'll go to paper number 8, and that is the thematic review on operational training.
It's me.
You've got this short straw.
I'm standing in for Neil. So I give you a quick run through of the recommendations. So I personally look after recommendation 1 and 3, so I can give you a comprehensive sort of update on that. I think it's fair to say 2A and 2B has been done because of the training needs analysis that Neil has presented. And like it says in the TNA that, our WDS staff generally will have enough time to complete the training unless it's disrupted by fire calls, but the on-call or our RDS staff do not, which I'll come on to that because it marries up with what I've been doing for recommendation 3 as well. So recommendation 1 is going back to from the outset when I got given this to lead on was to set a training platform, to set our PDR Pro, which is our training platform, what our firefighters train at, to reflect the threats and risks they face outside of the doors of a particular fire station. So the threats and risks and for Cardiff Central is different to what might be faced by Tonopandi or somewhere. So currently, or we still have it in currently, is a one sort of dashboard fits all. So every fire station will have the same training, pretty much there or thereabouts. So I set about a project team to sort of start at the base level, and that is pretty much 50 to 60% done. Now we build in a demo site on PDR Pro, so every station are having a meeting of me and Andrea, so who is the admin for PDR Pro, meeting with every station commander, every station, and the unitary authority group manager to accurately build that training platform from the base up really. So our core competencies, so our RTCs, water, BAs, our core skills element, and then on top of that, like a layer of cake, really, we put in some service-wide risks, you know, hazmats and stuff. And then on top of that is the station particular risks. What is the specific risks you were faced in maybe Barry Fire Station, which is quite a high level risk, or if you're working in Newin, or if you're working in a station like Merthyr, what is your particular risks there? So wildfire may be pertinent for upper valleys, not so pertinent for your Cardiff stations, although they'll still have that training, it'll be a reduced frequency. So your dashboards, your training dashboard that you face when you come into work in somewhere like Cardiff Central will look different to what is asked of maybe someone who's a firefighter in my stag. So we are working through the unitary authorities. We've completed Vale of Glamorgan, which going back, I think we were asked to task with that. So that's been done. I've linked in with stats to make sure that those stats don't show us anything that we've missed. If some stations in the Vale of Glamorgan are going to a high level of refuse fires and we didn't capture that in the training, then there'd be a gap there that they can tweak. So we've done that, and we are halfway through Cardiff and Caerphilly, the two UAs there, and I'm anticipating that this demo, this refresh of the service training will be completed before the end of the year, and built in the background that we could just flip it and it'll go live then. So every firefighter will see a new dashboard on these screens. Some stations will massively have a reduction because they don't need to train on high-rise firefighting 4 times a year. If they're up, away from high-rise. However, Cardiff Central will, but they won't have to train on wildfire 4 times a year. So they'll have a reduction in their wildfire burden on that. So we have over halfway now. Fair play, Andrea's worked really hard in the background to build each particular station's training dashboard to make sure it is fit for purpose, and that stats will be sitting behind as well to make sure that we're not missing anything. And that's where we are with recommendation 1. Way into be the training needs analysis, which then feeds into 3, which is around the RDS crews time constraints. And it's fair to say that once we've done recommendation 1, if I've reviewed the station, whole time stations dashboards, so many on-call stations have exactly the same risks. I'm anticipating there'll be a really quick change then to reduce and to clean up their dashboards so that we reduce the training burden to narrow that deficit down. I think, right, if I remember rightly, it was something like 60 or 70 hours per year that they were short. I'm anticipating that because we had so much, and historically PDR Pro has been an area where we've put a lot of training on, put it on PDR Pro, and it's been put there and it's been just grown and grown and grown, and we've had a real refresh of it all now. So their training will revolve around core skills, the 9 core competencies, and then some station specific risks around that particular station, whether you're Troki, whether it's an on-call station, Kenvick Hill. I'm anticipating they'll be very, very similar, and that training burden will reduce, so we can have the exact figures then on where we are. But it's going to be quite a big reduction, and that is only 20% complete because of the work is taken to prioritise the WDS stations in recommendation 1. And that is the big piece of work. I think that would be both quite recommendation 3 will quite quickly go from 20% to 90 or even 100% by the end of the year, roughly the same time as recommendation 1 will be complete. Recommendation 4, our multimedia developer is now embedded in Cardiff Gate. They are going about doing micro teachers, and I've got a drone. I'm pleased to say, if you've seen some of the photographs, sort of Laura was there in the chief's assessment. They were sort of at the centre of providing the multimedia and the filming for the factory fire that was this scenario. Again, we are 3/4 of the way through that recommendation, but we have hit some setbacks because of the amount this time is taken to film really hard activities for the micro teach purposes. It does take some time as well, to get someone on the yard to film the exact things that we need. So we have had a delayed start, but we are making some good progress now that the ball is rolling on that one. 5 and 6, 100% complete, and I'm sure Mike is fully aware that the training literature, and the stuff that everything that's come out from the reports is now embedded in our syllabuses. Everything we are teaching at Cardiff Gate now reflects that. And there are some, I lead up ODAT or Ops Assurance. So we are out at instance making sure that that compliance is happening and that change is taking effect on the incident grounds as well. So I'd feedback if that isn't the case, and is the case in most of the calls certainly I go to. But it's just a few, like I think Neil has probably has a few updates at the meeting that he needs to feedback on the highlight report, on top of the highlight report. But I think, you know, pretty safe to say that 5 and 6 are now pretty much complete. And that is just basically around the compartment firefighting and the syllabus updates and the teachings, the quadrant firefighting and everything that's come from there. Yeah. That's fair to say, like that.
Yeah, I've given an update as well.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. And people coming and stepping into the breach and speaking to a paper that you haven't written, and that's not easy to do, so appreciate that. Any questions on the paper?
Tony, you touched on it briefly. Obviously, going back to speaking to the fire advisor some time ago, there was this issue of disconnect between what was being taught and what was being delivered, really. And I think you've covered it to agree around that. How do we kind of whole scale that review that we are, the tactics that we are actually making sure that we're teaching the academy is then being delivered at that front end? Because he would say it's disconnect between the two, and are we happy that we're getting that right now?
So I go to instance regular, and I've seen a shift in that mentality. I think it's just taken a bit of time to adopt, and I think with anything really at first, there's always a bit of pushback, and I think now we can report back with the ODAT steering stuff we do with the ODAT group, and with the new Ops Assurance merger with operational, the assurance team as well. So Ops Assurance, we'll have a lot more tactical officers going to incident, providing that operational assurance element, because at the moment now, you know, tonight I'm on duty overnight as one Ops Assurance officer, but I can't get to every incident there. So going forward, when that merger happens, we'll have a lot more operational assurance officers, TAC officers, go in there as Ops Assurance, so we can provide a more robust feedback system. But I got a feeling that it is being embedded now, and I go to calls all the time, and I do see that change, that shift in them tactics, and not so much just the tactics for tactics' sake, the understanding behind the tactics and why we need to put a lot of water, maybe in a defensive manner or an offensive manner, and the way Dan's report is written and way that's been adopted by Mike's team, delivered, and is now being fed back to us. So,
and obviously Dan's review, 95% of it was office based of the logs, wasn't it?
yes.
So are we doing that review? I'm kind of looking towards you, Brian, and Mike. Are
I'll go
those
into
logs?
Recommendations 4 and 5 closely link.
Yeah.
Recommendations 4 and 5 is almost a pre-seas to the report
Yeah.
that I've got, and it just expands on it. And I'll show you how we're filling those gaps and how we continue to move forward to try and review and make sure we are capturing our learning.
So something just to sort of put in mind at rest is that when we carry on debriefs from key incidents, then we do one pretty much every sort of 2 or 3 weeks now. We are finding that open forum where crews are feeding back to us that when we are asking why sometimes the logs in the incident logs isn't quite captured correctly, and we've just tied in with control now over there's a red box that sits in control that we can actually clarify any queries. It's pretty much like a cockpit voice recorder that could record every message that goes back as well. So we are, as ODAT, we are chasing up some grey areas, perhaps that the call taker or the operator in control haven't quite logged properly. So we've been sort of busy doing that as well, and we are finding that crews are implementing and doing the things that's been taught by Mike's teams, but perhaps it just haven't been captured quite correctly. You know,
Helpful.
Brian, I'm going to ask you because it's not fair to ask.
No, that's fine.
Because
Stand
I'm
by,
gonna-
Tony.
I'm going to escalate it to you.
Take it on.
So, I'm just really interested about, so a lot of work has been going on, making sure that the training is aligned to risk.
Mhm.
But we're just about to review all our risks, aren't we? So we'll have done all of this work in the individual stations to get the new training plans for that station. And then we're going to have this review of all of our risks, aren't we? So how much of a change do you anticipate that is going to impact on the system? So we've done, it's difficult, isn't it? Because of all the timings, but I'm just a bit concerned that we've done all of this work. The stations will have now their new training, and then we will do the new risk analysis of our communities, only to find that that now is not relevant. We'll have to do it all again. So I'm just wondering, do we anticipate that that is going to be an issue for us?
No, it's an interesting question because I did ask the question in an earlier forum about, I'm really interested to see what the new risk sort of bow tie methodology throws up around operational incidents. Because actually, from my perspective, we manage operational incidents really well. And just don't take my word for it, touch wood. The health and safety data supports that as well. The riskiest place in the fire service are kitchens and the gyms. So what we know is that we know the risk that's extant in Cardiff Central. We know the risks that Merthyr face because we've got years and years of historical data, as well as our professional judgment, as well as just, all your senses. You can see there's mountains, there's high rise. So that's not going to change. So I think from an operational perspective, there'll be less change. So the work that Tony's doing will not all of a sudden, right, we're ripping this up and we're starting again now, because it's predicated around the 9 core competencies that every firefighter's got to have. And then thereafter, it's station-specific risks. And they're not going to change overnight. So whatever our approach is to managing risk in the organisation, I think its touch will be fairly light on the operational landscape.
No, I just, just a lot of work's going on and we don't want to undermine.
And just as you were saying that, I read that the regulation one does say around the regular assessments of risk.
Yeah.
Due to that, Andrea will be now the point of contact for PDR Pro, which we hadn't had before since the days of, I think it was Norma, wasn't it, maybe in Cardiff. So she would be now the point of contact, but we've realised that the ongoing assessment should happen every other year anyway. So we do 5 unitary authorities 1 year and 5 the next. So we will run this exercise in maybe a not so in-depth way every other year to make sure nothing has changed, make sure that if a factory or a processing plant is shut down and a different one has popped up, that we tie in, that we know that and sort of we balance that against, and we feel that every other year, every 2 years would be an ideal time to carry that out, to make sure that it's regular, it's ongoing, and we know.
So you've done Vale completed,
Yes. Vale Glamorgan and Bridgend.
are both complete.
Yes.
So that's 2 out of the 10.
Yes, and they're not live because we just sitting in the demo site in the background.
Okay. So we are still fine to do the remaining 8 by the end of the year, which
Yeah.
is what this says.
Yes, I'm pretty confident that we do it because the difficulty was bringing
Setting up the system.
Learn Pro down, getting Andrea up to speed. Now she's more knowledgeable on the system. She's finding that it's getting quicker and quicker and quicker. And the what we found in Vale Glamorgan is we reducing the training burden, because a lot of things, I don't want to say it's been a dumping ground for certain things, but PDR Pro has been like, let's put it on PDR Pro, let's put it on PDR Pro, and it's grown and it's become sort of really complex and it's gone way past operational training. Going forward, I think we need Andrea to be the gatekeeper for that with the operational personnel to make sure that doesn't grow again and become messy. And it'll just be for operational training only, based on the service risk and the station risk. So each station will be different.
Then on the micro teaching, it says that only
So recommendation 4.
so it says recommendation 4, it'll be completed on or before the 31st of December. So it says that on page 31, and then on page 34, it says due to complexity of the micro-teaching, this might not happen.
Yes,
So
that was my understanding, that that one is more correct. It might not happen. But
I'm
So-
glad you're looking my way, Chair, because
well, it's not. It's
that
not
hasn't
his
been
fault, is it?
negotiated with me, has it?
No, well, it's not his
No.
fault. I'm
Because
not,
I've
it's, I
made a-
can't hold him to account for a paper
Yeah.
he hasn't written. Like I can't hold you account for a paper that you should have signed off before it came.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm interested in
Yeah.
understanding why it's green here.
Yeah.
In one section of the paper, and then another section of the paper says something completely contradictory.
Yeah, no, it's a good question, because the 31st of December won't slip.
But we've outlined a risk that it might. So you can't have a paper that says it's going to be met, and then another part of the paper that says it might not be met.
That's right, yeah, you can.
You can't.
So I apologise for that, but yeah, the 31st of December is non-negotiable.
Okay.
That'll be met, and I'll tell you how we'll do that, because it's easy to say we'll meet it, is we'll just reposition and reallocate resources to get it over the line, because Mike's work and a lot of work that Mike's doing on the ops effectiveness is going to be dependent on the state, the micro teachers getting over the line,
Sure.
because what we're not going to do is release a product without the underpinning training and due diligence in terms of A&E notes, for example, all the health and safety. So that needs to be done before we flip the switch. So if that is a red risk area, to put into perspective, then I will make sure the resources go in there to get that done. So I apologise if it was two contradictory statements in the report.
And it's
But the
fine,
31st
if it's,
December is fine.
well, the thing is, it's fine to move it, if that needs to be moved, but it just needs to be recognised. The bit that worries me is we've got a green rag rating in one section of the report, and then something that contradicts
You're
that.
absolutely right.
So if that just said, amber, then that squares it, doesn't it? But I just think, we just have to make sure that we're very clear about whether we're going to get there, whether they're not going to get there. And there may be legitimate reasons, and we've heard about the complexity of getting the micro teachings done.
Absolutely.
So there may be very legitimate reasons why you can't, but I just think we need to have papers that accurately reflect where we are. Last one, and then I promise people, they will move on. So this is around, in the issues and challenges, it talks about the high turnover instructors, and that's like a real risk for the ability to do what you need to do. And then the resources needed talks about the new trial that's been introduced, which I'm guessing is there to counteract that
Absolutely.
particular problem. I guess, did I dream this, or did we have this discussion in the Board of Commissioners that we were going to talk about a 6-month interim evaluation of whether that was working?
It was
Or did I dream that?
initially, it was down for a 12-month review, yesterday 6 months, which was accepted in the board.
It was, wasn't it? Sometimes I think that I have these conversations in my head when I'm driving around, and I might not have actually spoken the words out loud to anybody. So we have agreed that.
Yeah.
I guess for me, it's about being clear about what that evaluation is going to look like. How are you going to evaluate whether that additional resource is making a difference? How will we know it's a success?
I can probably tell you just my point of view on that one is we are seeing people now apply to come in and show interest in joining Cardiff Gate. And we've just recently now expression of interest that's going to be interviewed, so to bring our establishment up to speed. And for me, the feeling in Cardiff Gate is that as we are progressing through all these recommendations through 1 to 6, is that the sort of feeling down there is a positive one. So I'm pretty confident that the retention of staff will certainly for my teams in incident command, etc. We are retaining our staff a lot better, and we're seeing the sort of mood really improve, and we're feeling sort of confident with what we do in our work, day-to-day work, week-to-week work is really positive. So and I don't think there's anyone now I think there may be just one person with a transfer out to Cardiff Gate as well. So that's really positive as well.
Great. Perfect.
But
That's really
there'll
good
be
to hear.
qualified as well, we'll be able to see any trends in terms of transfers going in, retention rates.
It's got 3 coming
There
through
will
now
be
as well.
metrics as well that can be measurable, as well as staff survey.
That's really, it sounds good. It's good to hear folks already.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming along and covering that. Any other questions? No? Great, perfect. Thank you. We'll go to number 9, Brenville.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Again, it's note of the progress that's been made. Probably the first thing to point out was one of the previous decisions, which was key in this. Progress has been massive, and that's down to formulating a dedicated team, and I think we did that fairly early. I now have a force of nature, as you
Yes, I know, I'm aware.
so the progress has been massive. We get together once a month, Brian and myself and the high rise team, and we go through all the progress. They're now part of the new program management system. So again, you can see their progress visually. They are going through all the recommendations quite rapidly. And again, they're passing through to commissioners for approval. I know you're sampling those which are coming through. High-rise SOP update this week. It's out for consultation, so it's due to be released anytime now, which is a real positive. And right behind that is the new evacuation SOP, which is due out next month. So they're really key pieces of work, and that's what we'll work off the back of. So real positive progress. Again, we're looking at legislation and how Welsh legislation meets and matches English legislation, which is, again, is key in getting some of the recommendations over the line. Some of these recommendations are linked to legislation, and obviously we can't achieve those. But what we can do is look for best practice. We look for best practice as a service. So if best practice is English legislation, we'll work towards that, waiting for our legislation to change. Some of the key work we're still looking for is some of the apps. So fire survival apps. We are working with, correct me the name. Alacrity, that's it. So we are looking at developing apps, so again, those to develop them for us. Other services have apps, but again, they're not quite fit for what we need. Although we do have a workaround solution, which is more a paper-based solution. It does work, and it's an interim solution until that technology catches up to where we need it to be. Other parts, I know he mentions a slight budget which is needed within the report. We met about that. It's just about extending some of our budgets at the moment. It's only a small amount, so there's nothing really to be concerned within the report. Issues and challenges, our monthly meetings are taking care of most of those. So any challenge that does come up, we're able to answer and address quite quickly. Our next actions, I think, is just continuing with signing off those recommendations. We did ask for them to do and focus on the Welsh recommendations, learn from Grenfell, before moving on to the phase 1 and phase 2. Again, as I mentioned, some you can't quite achieve yet, but the progress which is shown on the performance system is showing really positive progress. Micro teachers, they're developing those as well, which will be really successful and really beneficial for the crews. And looking to standardise in their PEEPS boxes as well. So when crews arrive at scene, there's a standardisation of the information that is contained within. So I know they're showing you those as we progress. Resource requirements, again, we've dealt with most of those. I think I've got one outstanding which I'm on the case with. So I can probably stop there now and answer any questions.
Well, thank you, Mike. Questions to Mike on the Grenfell paper progress?
I'm just really aware of the amount of work that's going on this, but you know, for the uninitiated, a couple of questions. You did mention the budget issue, which is in the paper there. Is that sorted, Mike? Because it's
Yes.
not a lot of money. No. Okay, that's positive. One more broadly around the legislation piece, obviously the fact that we need primary legislation in Wales. And it's, I suppose it's, is there any more that we can do to support influence to get to that point to where it needs to be around that legislation piece?
I can give an update on that. We are due, the high-rise team and myself are due to meet with the fire division this thing to talk about the draft bill. That's the meeting I thought I missed this morning. And I was looking at the calendar, but no, that's next week.
The meeting the chief attends, building safety group.
Yeah.
Welsh Building. We've asked for Jason to be a constituent member of that as well from a South Wales Fire Service perspective.
So we're gonna meet next week with the fire division to look at the draft of the bill that's come out and try and see if we can influence that if it's not. Ridiculously. There's opportunities. Anyway. Any further questions on the grant paper?
Just an observation again, Chair. I think it's just, I'm pretty sure the commissioners are aware of it, and we might get, but from a chief fire advisor perspective, we've been liaising with Dan over the last few weeks. He's given us notification under the Grenfell recommendations, particularly it's called recommendation 31, which is very specific to fire control. It's not captured in this thematic review, however, the chief fire advisor is now going to undertake recommendation 31 and an inspection of fire control down in Bridgend, which undoubtedly there'll be a published thematic review off the back of this. And I think at the appropriate time, whenever that is, a couple of months away, it'll just be a conversation as to do we absorb recommendation 31 into this paper, or do we do something similar just to put it on your radar early on stuff in terms of any recommendations that come from it.
Great, thank you, Mike.
Yeah, they are doing a bit of work.
Essential
to control.
to all this control, aren't they?
Yeah, they understand the centre. I think Kieran Williams are doing work with control, and they're looking for a bit of AI software to allow them to do fire survival guidance, and it'll generate calls. And it's a training package which I got to look into, which is going to cost a bit of money. So it's not in here, but it's raised in our last meeting. It's around £20,000 per year, and it'll give them a package which will allow them just to practice and train on the conditions they're expected to deal with.
So when I visited control last week, my understanding is the team had been just that week undertaking some authorised training, which they were very positive about. The staff, they felt that the training had been really high quality, really useful, and they spoke very highly of it. I think it is something for us to be aware of. The one piece of negative feedback about the training is because of the constraints that they are under in terms of numbers, they could not train as a watch. They had to do it in batches. They couldn't train as an entire watch together, which they felt was detrimental to them. And actually, you would not expect a watch on a station not to do their training together as a team. And that's because of the constraints that they are under in terms of recruitment and retention, as I understand it. They can't do their day-to-day business and release the whole watch to do the training together. It's something for us to be aware of the constraints. But they spoke very highly and very positively about the training.
That's good.
Okay, so that's something to keep an eye on then in the future. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Mike. If there are no further questions, we'll move on. Number 10, operational excellence.
Right. Chair, it's just to give you an update on the report and any progress since the report was submitted. So recommendation to, as stated in the report, is awaiting sign off. The evidence has been produced and stuff for where we meet the recommendations. All I want to do is just give you a quick overview of how we're meeting the recommendations and how we're introducing it to business as usual. So the service approach is currently reviewed is domestic property firefighting. An overarching guidance document has been published. The building firefighting SOP has been reviewed. That's currently out for consultations and aligned with NOG. And the guidance that was specifically put in place for South Wales that incorporates a lot of new models and some international practices. Along with that, there's been the BA SOP that's been reviewed, and that's currently out for consultation. And we've introduced a new fire science SOP that gives our crews the background information as well into that. The aim is with these is consultation will be completed and publication are online by September. Initial awareness training has been delivered to all frontline crews, including all control personnel. The training has covered the updating of firefighting tactics. This was done before the guidance was put out, so we could get feedback and include any additional information we needed in the guidance. So that was completed before April, the initial training cycle, before the guidance. Again, it introduced different models, the BSAFE model, the Dutch quadrant model, improvement in incident messaging, and it's all in one place, and that's now incorporated into our SOPs. So recommendation 2, that was the feedback. Then recommendation 3, how we continue to improve on this training and introduce the training packages so it becomes business as usual. following the completion of the raised awareness training that we discussed in recommendation 2, comprehensive training program of 6 training packages is being developed. The first package is complete and it will be published shortly. And the last preview yesterday with the members of TFU. They've been brilliant in what they're doing and they're producing some high quality. I'd like to take some time to show you just a snapshots of what we were doing. But it is really good. And it is pushing the envelope, not just of what we're trying to do, but it's that background understanding for our crews. The completion of the other 5 training packages, what they're going to do now is they're going to roll on in 2 months. So this one will be published 2 months later, the next one will be published 2 months after that. It will make a 12-month training program cycle that sits on that PDR Pro that's all updated following the introduction, all aligns with the SOPs and all aligns with the guidance we've introduced. Our background training and core training in Cardiff Gate, that has all been updated as Tony mentioned earlier. So our BA training, our initial training has been updated to incorporate the improvements. Refresher training for BAs has been updated. Our tactical officer training has been updated to incorporate these improvements. Incident command as well. So they're going across the board. So our current training courses have incorporated that. A new training rig is under construction in Cardiff Gate. And that is used to develop further our internal and external firefighting tactics. Completion of that is expected in October, and that is a direct pull from Dan's report. It was very beneficial. We've done some research on it. I think we're going to be one of the first services in the country to have this training rig, but it just allows us to practice different techniques with the equipment and tactics that we've employed. Also, to enhance our operational response and align to all this, there's been a £270,000 investment in equipment. That's new branches, new hose to increase the weight of our attack. The rollout is started. It's anticipated completion by the end of the year. We've had the first batch of 22 mil that's gone across the 14 fire appliances. The second batch is coming in September. We're going to be looking to do 2 appliances a day until it's rolled out. We've had a little bump in the road, but that's been overcome. A company we were using, CMT, it's also got a big order coming from Mid and West Wales because they're doing the same thing. So, but yeah, that's all on track. To embed this work now as business as usual, the training team at Cardiff Gate and the operational crews are engaging in both national and international groups. And so they've been embedded into the NFCC groups that are looking at building firefighter tactics and more training in general. But there's also, this is culminating in October, where our service is leading on a all Wales visit from both national and international partners. So SMEs from as far away as Australia, the Netherlands, are coming into our service for 3 days to share their experience, and a day in Mid and West Wales and then a day in North Wales. Again, just so we can build those groups and share the changes or transformations that they've gone through, continue that learning. So once we establish those relationships, hopefully it'll be beneficial for our service. So that's where we're in a position to sign off those 2 recommendations and how we're trying to introduce it. And the next recommendations 4 through to 6 are all about their operational assurance, and this is how we work out that we're actually getting some value in what we're doing and seeing that improvement. So significant progress has been made even since this report was submitted. There was a report that was taken to the Chief Fire Officer and the senior officers with recommendations of how we change the operational assurance programme and what options were available to us. The proposal that we took in was accepted. It combined, it outlined the merger of 2 teams. One that does station-based assurance, one that does operational-based assurance, into one single team. And that team has direct feedback then directly up to the Chief on operational response, and it outlined all of that. One of the key advantages that we'll get a wider scope of operational learning because it incorporates the tactical officer cadre as now specifically undertaking op assurance rather than it just being down to individuals within a team. The outline of that report has been put in place. There's a a report that sits behind that about how we're going to introduce that. Biggest one was establishing the team. We've got the outline of the team. We've now published the expression of interest. The closing date was today. So moving on from that, we're anticipating the aim is that within the next 6 weeks is to bring that core team in. Their roles then will be to establish the training and stuff for the tactical officers. We've been having a look at other services, specifically high scoring services on the HMRC, on their systems, on officer assurance, and trying to adopt them and bring them in. One of the good things is a lot of them always use the Microsoft-based systems, which is something that's already in service that we can adapt and move, and that's going to be one of the key priorities of the team. And we've got a draft policy in place as well for the ops assurance, but it's developing that further and then rolling that out and looking to flick the switch from a current process by the new process by the end of the year. That's the goal. So we've got a embed development phase, and then we've got train and roll out, and then it will be into a review process. And hopefully by the time we get to that stage, we'll be in a position then to sign off recommendations 4 through to 6 and evidence all that.
Thanks, Mike. We'll go back there. Mike always provides a reassurance, so we're on it. Any questions to Mike?
No, just this positive, really, Chair, is that, obviously the work's been done, but also actually I've been at open forum meetings where the fire advisor has commented on the progress that has been made. It's generally followed by and we should have done this quicker, but the fact that he's talking about South Wales and the progress South Wales has been done, I think is really positive. And the fact I think the service has opened itself up to that kind of more national and international learning, I think is really positive, because we want to be there, don't we? We want people to be able to see what you're doing and what we're doing. Why wouldn't we? So yeah, really, really positive. I suppose the bit, and I'm sure it will get picked up, Mike, is you embed the ops assurance team. It's that checks and balances sees it adding extra value from what we had before. It feels right, doesn't it, really, around that one central team, but we've got to make sure they've got those checks and balances going forward. It's adding extra value, really.
And that's why it's important to get those, when we specifically put expressions of interest out for the coordinators, we want those experienced watch managers that not only can challenge the TAC officers that they're dealing with, but also can communicate with the firefighters at ground level, because they're going to be the ones that shows what good looks like. And that's what we're trying to embed and eliminate there. We're trying to change that provides us with some improvement in how effective we are out there.
Brilliant. And maybe I'm conflating two different things, but I'm assuming in the bottom of the box around issues and challenges, the final bullet point talks about approval of additional funding.
And that's, that has all been sorted. That was around getting the team members in because they're going onto a different rota system, but that's all been boxed off.
Yeah. So
And
that's been dealt with.
that's what we were waiting for. And the expression of interest went out 2 weeks ago today, and that we've overcome that hurdle.
Perfect, great. That's the only thing that I had on my, I've made a note on Dean.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's just a bit of recognition of Mike, really, because I think from an Old Wales regional perspective, I chair what's called the National Issues Committee. It's an operational based committee all around response elements. But I think within that committee, from the other two Welsh services in particular, they recognise, I guess, that we're in front of the other two services because we had our inspection and report was published first. But I guess the work that Mike's undertaken, that's probably, and you know, what they tell us is that support mechanism for them to be able to lean on Mike to see what's been implemented in our service is putting them in a very, very good position going forward with their own reports. So I just want to pass on, like, because it was mentioned in the last committee meeting literally 2 weeks ago.
There's a lot of stuff that's happening nationally now, and it's starting to snowball, and then everyone's sharing information. So where it was a slow drip at the start, you're getting help from every sort of service that's out there. Everyone seems to have open doors and come and have a look what we're doing and share the information, which is really good.
Really positive, very positive. Any further questions on Mike's paper? No, great. Thank you so much, Mike. That's fabulous. So we're on to number 11. Broadening the role.
I'll do this one, Chair, because Matt's absence. So again, this was just for noting and assurance for commissioners. This is around broadening the role. What you find within the report, Matt's giving a little bit of an update on where we are from a recommendation 1, 3 and 4. Just for reference, recommendation 1 was in around analysing, evaluating the shift system for training events, etc., and making sure you got the time required. 3 was in around blocks of time where we conduct prevention work and protection work, etc. Training, and a recommendation 4 was in around recording of that allocated time and the activities and duties that our station-based staff are conducting on a daily basis. What you find within Matt's report here, he's recorded as a 90% completion metric, which is really pleasing to see. There's still a little bit of work to do, which I'll go into shortly. In terms of implementing Operation Reset, because this is what really underpins this thematic review for us. This is how practically how do we implement all those recommendations, and this be captured in the Operation Reset. Now, when I talked about Mike review earlier on AFAs and that capacity that's freed up from our operational response that we're now undertaking. Matt's been doing a lot of work with Wayne's teams of how we record this under a dashboard, because these are metrics that we probably wouldn't have been capturing previously, or we weren't capturing previously. We're now in a position where we have. Matt's given me the report. It's not attached to this because we've only literally had this within the last few days. And it gives us a breakdown of the last few months from April 1st and the introduction of Operation Reset. What it does and what it demonstrates is that since April, we've recorded in excess of, in terms of preparedness activities, over 3,184 hours of activity from our operational staff. Prevention activities is 2,186, and they are very proportionate and where we would think we were expecting to see that activity levels. And then from incident-based activity, where it's disrupted training or educational activity that we've been doing, that's 125 hours, which is a lot lower than what we firstly anticipated. So the data is really interesting to see it. And what I've asked Matt to do is at the next one, that we attach this, so at least you've got the information and it demonstrates the changes that's being made and how it's being captured. In terms of the next phases, he's going to be moving on to phase 2 quite quickly. And this is in and around how we capture and train and provide the expected outcomes from station managers on stations, watch managers and IT managers as well. So in and around how do you formulate your working day? So it's all about workstation routines, expectations, etc. In line to the NFCC code of ethics and everything else that we want to take on a daily basis. So that's going to be the next element. This has been captured into the social partnership forums as well. So the work is being communicated to the rep bodies through the negotiating bodies. They've been really positive about some of the change, although we had to make tweaks to the Operation Reset from that feedback. But I think what it shows is that you tell us, we listen, and then we'll go and we'll change the format a little bit. So that's happened since April, really. So we'll continue taking feedback, making any tweaks because we knew that would be the case. But I think it's putting us in a really good place for the future. In terms of resources, there's no ask, and I think the work is going to continue. And I think we'll be in a position to say that 1, 3 and 4 probably before the end of this year will be completed, or we do complete our last 10%.
Brilliant. Thank you, Dean. Questions to Dean on the paper? I think, Dean, you kind of like preempted what I was going to ask. I think the paper as it's currently constituted is like a bit thin, really. What I'd be interested in is exactly what you just described. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's like, okay, what is the impact of these changes? It's like the so what question, isn't it? Mm-hmm. What is the impact that Operation Reset is having? What are we learning about that? How is that then influencing how we drive the business forward? What are the metrics that we're using to evaluate it? The paper doesn't really give a sense, really, of that. So it's hard to take assurance because the paper at the moment is a bit is a bit thin on like the evidence of the impact and then the data around it, but it sounds like it's there. But I think if we could incorporate that without too much, hassle for everybody into the paper going, to be able to get higher levels of assurance, really, we'd really know what it was making, what difference it was making, and whether, I guess for me, it's whether it then addresses the concerns, the rationale that the fire advisor has put into his report. That, part of the changes that we've made, being able to answer some of the questions that were raised in that report. We need to demonstrate that our approach, which perhaps is slightly different from the approach that the fire advisor might recommend, is actually delivering what we need to the public safety. Any other questions?
I suppose it's just on the title of the paper, really. When you look at the journey, and you will all know better than me, the journey around what around this feels like tweaking the and broadening the role is still used on that national narrative.
Yeah.
And it feels like we're doing work under a national narrative, but we're not, in my view. We're actually tweaking and we're getting the best use of our resources to focus on the things that we the core responsibilities. I just wonder, is the paper actually a true reflection and worded in the right way of actually what we're getting? Because it kind of could look an expectation and we're broadening the role, but I don't think we are.
I think so. If I may, Chair, I think it's a really fair assessment. I mean, the broadening roles are named as thematic, but we're not broadening the role. What we're doing is making the time the firefighters spend and work more efficient and more effective. But actually, what the long-term vision of that is if you free up capacity in terms of reduction in AFAs, and you organise your day around, say we were going to broaden the role to assist at fire medical response.
Absolutely.
So high acuity calls, basic life support, the clock's ticking, those sort of calls. It was really important that we would look at the elements data and see when are the highest demand for you and organise our training around those demand periods so that our findings will be available. We're not in that territory, are we? But actually what the work's showing is we can put our own house in order here in terms of the efficiency and effectiveness. And now that we're leaning, let's say, fight and fit, when there is a political will, appetite to change the role, then I think we'll be ready to go in a social partnership forum. But you're right, to come back to what you said, this is not about broadening the role, but actually the work that's being done here will show where we've got capacity in the future, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think we use the term, don't we? Because that's what the report's called.
Yeah,
And I think, what would be really interesting as well to feed into it at some later point, I was acutely aware, again, at the recent visit to control, the nature of some of the calls that were coming in and decisions to deploy actually were certainly around, if not us, then who.
Mhm.
So if we're not going to this call today, the ambulance service isn't going to this call today, the police aren't going to this call today, and therefore we have a distressed member of the public on the phone to us. Do we deploy or do we not deploy? And and obviously the decision is taken, because nobody joined the fire service to not listen to people who are in distress.
Humanitarian.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody tried not to, and that job was carried out. But it's how we capture some of that as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
In the nature of the work that we're doing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. So I guess the significant action point arising out of that is that we're going to populate this paper going forward with some of the data that is being captured, so it's not quite as thin as it currently is. Brilliant. Thank you so much. We'll go on to number 12 then. Fatigue. Who was picking up fatigue?
Although Chris is not here,
Yeah.
and Matt as well, I don't mind talking through.
Yeah, and Chris going to give an update this morning on the culture board around the progress to date on the fatigue paper.
Okay, so are there any, we'll take the paper as read then, and many of the people in this room will have discussed it this morning in a different forum, so we'll take it as read. Are there any further questions that we want to raise on fatigue this afternoon?
Just
No,
one.
I think it would, sorry, Brian, I think it would be fair to say it is a systematic piece of work to understand the current position, to develop some process of support around our staff, and to recognise what we need in the longer term, really, before we jump to any significant conclusions. The issue from this morning was raised around occupational support capacity, and there was a commitment the team would link in directly with Lisa's team in HR to make sure that we understand if there is going to be a growing requirement study and we can budget against it.
Okay, so that will, how will that action from this morning, which is a more informal meeting than this meeting? How can we'll put that onto the action log then,
Yeah.
this meeting? Because the meeting you've had this morning doesn't technically have an action log, does it?
Yes.
It does.
Oh, it does, so
It does.
It does, yeah, we did have some minutes.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So can we just
We can double it up
Yeah.
anyway to make sure.
just put it onto the action log so that we can just assure ourselves that it is taken?
I think we all felt there was a potential risk around there. There was the potential gap in service. If they're going to put a load of demand into occupational support, at the moment it's pretty lean. Extra, demand was going to cause a problem.
Yeah, I think there was, sorry, Chair, there was a conversation with Matt and Lisa following that meeting this morning. I think Matt clarified that the way it's going to be recorded was when we go to OCAL for our normal medicals, we fill out as individuals a
Greening.
a screening questionnaire. Matt's looking to introduce 4 questions around fatigue that the individual complete themselves.
Mhm.
And then it records some of that information that we can use as a metric in terms of the fatigue management policy. So I don't think there's going to be an expressive ask of OCAL, but that was my understanding.
Okay, so sorry, Brian, did you want to say?
Just briefly, just and what Carl also agreed to this morning as the chair, we raised it was any learning, we anything that we do, we learn from, that we share it with the National Fire Chiefs Council, because there's a multitude of fire services operating the same shift systems. So we've got fatigue being an issue and linking to shifts, etc. All the learning that we take, all the good stuff, we share it strategically with the National Fire Chiefs Council.
Okay, great. So let me just be absolutely clear then of what the action we're taking from this meeting for the action log. Is there one or is there not, Jake?
There will be an action log. It will be taken from the minutes that are taken here. So the action that you've just sort of agreed there, Chair, will be yellowed in the minutes.
Great.
Sort of use.
Perfect. Any further questions, discussions, fatigue? No, then we'll go back to Dominic.
Thank you.
15.
So this paper is an update on the highlights from the transformation programme. As you will all be aware, the transformation programme takes the 82 cultural recommendations and learning from the number of key reports, including those government, HMIC, FRS, and other partner evaluations, and puts them into a larger programme of improvements. We are asking that commissioners note progress and updates taken across the transformation programme. We're asking that the commissioners continue to support the implementation of the programme and note key movements in terms of digital data, communication and engagement. I'm not going to go through the whole report in detail. I'll pick out a few key highlights just to raise for everybody's awareness. I'm not going to cover communication and engagement due to the fact that there is a paper following up that's going to cover those key areas. Digital transformation remains a key driver in our ability to change and innovate across the service. Work is ongoing with our partners to evaluate what we need to do in terms of a wholesale change and transformation piece there. And that will start off with the development of a digital strategy. Some key work streams that are in that are internet and intranet. And that has been a full brief presented from communication into our digital and data team or our ICT team around what we need to achieve there, and work has progressed in that key area. We've also got an interim program management solution that enables us to prioritise our streams. We used that this morning for the improvement board. There is a need to finalise a permanent solution for that under our BMIS system, so that is an sale base for all of our project program management risks, etc. And we took an action from the board this morning to follow that up. Currently, we've extended the contracts within that service. Other highlights include ethics, values and culture. Our new values have now been launched within the service. We have gone out to the service and people can now recommend their colleagues and their teams on our intranet that have been exhibiting the values and behaviours, and a number of case studies have been released in internal magazines. Some of the people have continued on the reward and recognition process. Some of the final pieces for our corporate ethics embedding and our values and standards is a document that's been drafted around our ethos and standards that gives a little bit more detail around what our values are and what that means for staff. So we have some filming going on next week with the Hydra Association. It's a behavioural assessment tool filing. We are leading on that and an all Wales approach that is set to lead in. Once we have done that piece of work, we'll share it with NFCC. They use that in policing, so it's a good piece of work. There's a Spirit of Fire project programme group that's been set up that feeds into our 30th year anniversary celebrations, and it looks to engage previous members and current members of staff about the things that we do well, things that are important to us and our history. And we've covered the governance piece, fire cover review and CRMP progress. We're monitoring that closely through our improvement board and part of our priorities. We have recruited a programme manager now. They are due to start maybe middle of September, pending DBS checks, etc. And that will help solidify our approach to programme project management as we develop that piece of work. Our Leadership Academy has been launched and they're working hard to develop a comprehensive syllabus down the Cardiff Gate. And Cardiff Gate also launched their new leadership charter down at the service. That also is underpinned by taking care of behaviours training, and there's been quite a lot of activity in training for our ELT, SRT in a number of different areas. So work, we're also looking at 360 feedback at the ELT level and mentoring, which of course were recommendations from the office. So those are our high level highlights from the transformation programme. Commissioners are asked to know the progress around that area.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dominic. It's really comprehensive. Any questions to Dominic on the paper? Oh,
I put my hand up. So it's one I don't laugh because it's a question to you, Alison. It's one I was going to ask this morning because we had the same one. So we talk about talent, but we talk about it in promotion progression. Are we looking to broaden that out around talent development? Because it's not always the same, is it? It's not everybody wants to go up, but people, it's looking at, and George, good example, isn't it? Yeah, we're taking her out of one role and moved us to something else. But actually that's, isn't it? That's talent, identification of talent, and then looking to say, oh, right people, right places.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. So in a former world, I've been used to mapping our talent, so spotting talent and developing it in something called a 9-box grid, where you identify your people with ambition and potential. So there's that piece we need to look at, but there's also the sort of growing in role, and that was the ethos of our leadership pathways that we developed. So that's the growing in role, doing your masterclasses, keeping your basic skills, your soft skills and your technical skills up to date. And then there's the getting you ready to get up the ladder. So there is a bigger piece of work. You're right, this focuses very much on the promotion process, but it's bigger than that. And that is the bigger piece of work that we're looking at.
That's very helpful. And the second bit was a bit of an offload worry bit, Kirsty, is that I do worry about the whole digital piece for the organisation. I've got to be honest, and that's not because of the work that's not being done, it's done or is being done at the moment. But we've heard it again this morning, heard it even now around the amount of stuff that is relying on digital change or ICT systems, and we haven't gotten, or we're behind the curve. And I haven't got an answer. What it really kind of worries me around actually all our bits are being propped up on this. And there's a big investment, but even if we had the money, have we got the capacity to deliver all that change? And look at your world with the kind of HR system. We've got quadruple keying in there. We look at some of the stuff Mike talked about, so on around that ability to deliver kind of cutting edge stuff.
So just on that.
So that's the offload now.
No, that's a good offload. Not that I can answer all of that, and Jake will please jump in as and when, if you don't mind, Chair, give a brief update on that. We have been working with a not-for-profit charity, so that's coming to fruition in terms of what they can offer without stepping over the mark where we're getting into tendering without prejudice then, so we have to go into tendering. So we've had really good conversations with them. What is very evident is there's the will in the organisation to change, as evidenced by we had 14 pages of additional ask in addition to the ICT replacement programme, which came from the heads of service to take the service forward. Now the wand of reality would have to be, waved over that in terms of what's achievable, in terms of resource, time, and money. But what I'm confident of is we might have to outsource and bring not a significant cost, because it won't be, someone to come in and have a look at pretty much strip everything bare. What are we doing? Because to move forward, we got to get the foundation right, and the foundation probably isn't right. So I think you are right. We're going to have to move slow to eventually move really fast, because if we build the foundation and get the foundation right, the cybersecurity pieces, the APIs, what we've currently got, get that talking to each other, take out efficiencies in terms of form filling, then we can push into the real modernization agenda. So it's almost like be patient, Jake. We've had lots of meetings, and those meetings will probably in the next few weeks start to come to actionable outcomes. If that's not going to completely satisfy you now, because we have done a lot of talking around this space, but that's where we're heading in, Jake.
Yeah, I mean, and I think for me, it's been cyber compliant, and I think I did share with you sort of new job description of our sort of DDAP sort of head of service, which will come to fruition shortly. And I think sort of moving on from that, I think we are going to look at ICT in old money independently as a team and the way they operate within the headquarters and support it moving forward. But I think my sort of main effort is in support of Brian is to be cyber compliant. I think once we've got our business continuity wrapped up in that and we're safe from a digital perspective, then we can move into the other sort of departments. And because I am laser focused and Brian is on HR to sort of get after that, because I know there's some efficiencies to be had there. I don't mean people, I mean the organisation to be more efficient in that department, and that there's a big need for that. And some of our sort of programming software does run out over the next 24 months. So we need to get in front of that to develop the software in order to make sure it's fit for purpose. So this is the start of the 10, I'd say, of a journey of change, I think, over the next 2 to 3 years, so get after that. If that makes sense, but please come back to me. So further.
It does make sense. I suppose it's the timelines for updates coming through.
Yeah.
And I know everything can be a priority. You talk about prioritisation.
That's right. Yeah.
But if we don't get some of this right, we're going to leave ourselves in a really difficult time.
I think. I mean, to be honest, we could even to talk about our current software that we've got in the background. That it's when you look at staff user. That the staff need training to be able to use that software. It's already there. I teach some of my fellow colleagues how to use Copilot to its best ability to get into the sort of artificial intelligence sort of game. But I do get that, and with that we've got an imminent shift which will take us to Windows 11. And I've heard from other sort of fire and rescue services, it's been a bit of a hard task to implement that. So when you look at the training burden across the organisation, even to transfer from 10 to 11, it does take a lot of effort to take everybody with you. So that's the sort of mindset of where I am, to sort of drive change and get after our sort of technology, sort of digital strategy over the next 2 years.
It does those. I don't know, Dominic, would you say that IT infrastructure is a constraining factor in the transformation programme?
Yeah.
The biggest constraining factor?
Yeah, because it's the problem. With communication engagement, it's the biggest enabler as well. Yeah, so what I would say that it does, it provides you streamlined processes. It provides you the ability to access your information, to manage your information, to communicate it. It frees up resource to be able to do other key areas.
So where in the governance structure then, and the oversight structure, are we looking at this? Where? So is it just sitting completely in the transformation programme, or do we need a
No, I think there's an element of, when you look at our programme of record of delivery of different software over the next 24 months, then that's business as usual.
Okay.
But I think where we are at the minute is that we are in need of a strategy which defines ourselves or this organisation, the business over the next 5 years, how we get after that and what software's out there. I think on top of that, there's further work that we need to do pretty soon, where we talk about our cyber infrastructure, because I don't want to be NHS and I don't want to be Marks and Spencers or Co-op. So there is an element of yeah, definitely not. So there is an element of risk, and I think once we've got that secure, then I think that opens up different opportunities to sort of get after the here and now.
Okay, let's not talk about that in public forum any longer. We need to discuss some of those issues in the committee. But yeah, okay, but I think we need to, seriously consider what that strategic digital plan is going to look like and how we allocate resource and the ability to implement it. Anything further from you, Dominic, before we move on?
No.
Thank you so much for that. We will then move to Laura and looking at comms.
Thank you, Chair. So Rian has asked me to present this report on her behalf. And this is the introduction of the internal communication strategy for the service and an outline of some of the tactical outputs being delivered, set a new standard for communications and engagement in the service. So we are asking for commissioners to support the strategy that's set out in the appendix and for commissioners to note the work being delivered to set the new standard ways of working for internal comms in the service. Apologies, I will be looking down quite a bit. It's Rian's paper. So we're going to adopt a strategic approach, which is around having a consistent narrative and tone that engages the hearts and minds of colleagues, builds trust for our leadership team, gives confidence in our future and knowledge on the role we all play to work together as one team to protect people in our communities and ambitiously innovating for the future. And apologies to repeat this from anyone who was in here this morning, but I was also talking about the introduction of the style guide and a tone of voice document, just so that we can standardise our way of writing and communicating across the service. And once that's been approved by the ELT, we'll disseminate that more widely. But Lisa did make a good point about this dyslexia guidelines as well, so I'll take that away as an action to have a look at that and make sure it's in line. We don't want to discriminate. So the approach is going to be owned and delivered by the communications and engagement team, obviously, but there are a few asks for different teams across the service as well. So as a shared responsibility, we are looking to the executive team to support and maintain visible leadership and role modelling behaviours in the leadership framework. And I would add to that, it's not on there, but the cascade of information from sort of the top down is really important for us as well. It works nicely having the middle manager sessions where we can then follow up with the papers and the documents and ask everybody to kind of cascade that information down, just as kind of reinforcing the ask. And then moving to people managers, asking for them to maintain support to deliver good communication and role modelling again in the leadership framework. For teams and colleagues, the ask is about involving, engaging and signposting to clear information. And again, to add to that, is kind of considering communications from the start of the project as well. So maybe not coming to us towards the end of something. If you can link us in with the process from the beginning, if we can then kind of come up with a robust communication plan to help support you and get the best out of your activity or your updates, I think that's quite key. So Rian's got here the internal communications and culture development workstream in the strategy has a set of key deliverables and tactical outputs that are assigned to people. These include a communications audit to inform decision making and improvement, review and improve internal comms channels, embed an editorial planning process, introduce a measurement dashboard and work with IT to improve digital access and usage. So it's a big priority. Rian has already started with the key metric monitoring. So these are weekly, monthly and annually. And these help inform tactical decision making on the content, channels, messaging and timing within the comms team and our outputs as well. The implications to highlight here are EDI or DICE as we are calling it. Yeah, I know. Obviously, we've got a duty to comply with the Welsh language standards, and we also want to make sure we are inclusive as we can be. AJ has been looking at the British Film Institute diversity standards so that we can adopt those in any of our multimedia work, which wasn't something that we'd considered before. And again, Lisa's comment earlier about sort of accessibility of the routine notice, if we are putting more links in there, we need to think about people that don't have access to digital systems and are receiving paper copies of the routine notice. So there's something there for me to take away and speak to Rian about so that we're not isolating anybody from accessing that information. Obviously, there's the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act and consultation and communications. So the aim is people to feel engaged, supported, involved, heard, and kept informed of the work that we're doing. So in terms of looking at evaluation and conclusion, the strategy brings together the recommendations, the areas for improvement, and the other work that is needed to deliver that first-class communication and the engagement that we are aspiring for. The work has already started for delivery, and middle leaders have been engaged in the development of the approach. So obviously we've got the middle managers meetings booked in now until March, I believe, dates go up until. And we're getting good engagement and good turnout at those events as well, which is positive. And in order to evaluate, we'll use data to give insight and gather evidence to show progress and the benefits of the changes we're making. So we've opened it up as more of a two-way communication stream, and I know Rian's been engaging with lots of teams and departments, both operational and corporate, going out to visit them and getting their feedback on things like this. So that appears to be working really well for us. So again, we are asking for commissioners to support the strategy as set out in Appendix 1, and just to know the work being delivered to set the new standard ways of working for internal comms within the service, please.
Thank you, Laura, once again for stepping up and covering today. Really appreciate you doing that. Any questions to Laura on the paper? It's really comprehensive, very clear, you know, it's very obvious about what we're doing, why we're doing it, when we're going to do it by, and how will we know. So I think all those questions are answered really clearly in it. So Pete.
Yeah, thanks, James. I mean, observation really, I guess, what I really like about the internal comm strategy is that we were able to share that with the senior leadership team really early on. So we've had plenty of scope and time to digest the information in there, give some feedback. And I think what I really like is around the data and the measurement, very clear in terms of the tables, laid out specific, very visible. I think that's a good example, I would say, of what it should look like.
Rian is a self-certified data nerd, so
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
Just chair, just one for me. No, I think the staff handbook as well, to provide consistency when we talk about our staff work across their quarters, that Laura's done some great work with that. So I suppose I just want to commend her anyway for hard work with that. And also I've been engaged in that. But I think most importantly, what I've witnessed is more ELT staff engagement as well, from headquarters perspective, which obviously we and they, you know, long after over the past few weeks. So that's been really good, and some really good rich feedback from that. So it's moving in the right direction.
Great, perfect. Well, thank you very much, Laura, you and colleagues in the team for that, and we are happy to support the paper as outlined. Brilliant. That takes us to number 15, and that's the board work programme. Great.
Yeah, no major updates really. I think this is one of the very few committees where the agenda is very, very consistent. Obviously, the committee being advised to focus on independent, very cultural review and practical review. So no major updates. I think there is, looking at again the next meeting in November. I think it's pretty much a replica of this agenda. So no major updates there. There may be one update, I think, in February around the 30-year celebrations. That was just to provide commissioners on that, but no, I think that's really.
Any comments on the forward? Look, everybody happy? Rebecca?
All work plan happy. I think there's probably action, okay, chair at this meeting. So most of the people in this room
this morning.
sat 2 hours ago doing most of the same, not all, some of the very similar pieces. And that includes me taking the minutes in the background. I think it's probably the right time with Amanda coming on, working with Dominic and others in the room to kind of look at that. It might be because it's just timing that they've come together very, very closely. But, you know, I value your time and I don't want you to have to repeat it. And I was very aware that we discussed some of the very items here that the only person that wasn't in here was yourself, people with yourself and Mike. that's not a good use of people's time. So we just need to have a think about that, how we do it, and get the most value out of it.
Yeah, and I think that the other thing to think about, isn't it, is that that is more inward facing, and this is the external
Absolutely.
public facing formal governance. So yeah,
This has to take primacy.
yeah, so
Yeah.
we just need to think about for that. But you're right, it's not helpful if everybody's had to rehearse this twice. It's lucky for me that I haven't. So everybody else, not so great. Brilliant. So that's an action to take out of this. Any further comments on that? No. Okie dokes. That means, oh, I've clicked over too soon. Items of business that the chairperson deems urgent. I've not been informed of any, but is there anything that people would like to raise? No, there's not. And then items to report back to the board of commissioners. Is there anything here that we would want to escalate to the board that other commissioners would need to be aware of? I don't think that there is anything outstanding really that we would need to do that. Anybody got a different view? No. Brilliant. We won't do that. Therefore, that brings us to the end of the meeting. Thank you so much to everybody for their attendance and for the work going in. That's appreciated. Thank you. You're fab.